Welcome once again to the Ron Ponder Show. I am, of course, Ron Ponder, and today on C-Town Radio, thanks again to Jeff Woodson, we're going to be interviewing one of the members of the Canton City School Board. As you know, last week, the voters in the Canton City School District were asked to approve a $4.3 million bond issue to build 2 elementary schools and change how the district of nearly 8,000 students educates its youngest pupils. To help us understand exactly what's going on there, and keep in mind, this is a bond issue, not a levy. That's very important. But keep that in mind as we continue to discuss what that doggone bond issue means if you're a resident of Canton. And to help us understand that, we've got Mr. Eric Resnick in our studios. How you doing, Eric?
I'm doing great, Ron. It's great to be here, and I thank you for your interest in this.
Well,
you have been a supporter of the Canton City School District and education in general for a very long time, and we appreciate that.
Yes, and I haven't hesitated to criticize the board either.
Nope.
When I thought you were doing something that shouldn't have been doing.
But that's part of support.
That's true. That's true. Very good point. Anyway, can you... last night, Wednesday night, you and the other board members met and decided to pass the resolution for the bond issue. It's supposedly going to raise $61 million, and it's going to build 2 additional schools and provide some, I think it's going to provide some maintenance money for some of the other buildings. I'm not sure about that. It won't.
I don't believe so. That's what we approved last night in that bond issue is primarily construction of the 2 elementary schools.
Okay. No teacher training, no ancillary stuff.
No. In the state of Ohio, school districts separate facilities money with general revenue fund. This is all facilities money. This is all, it's called permanent improvement.
So legally, that's all you could do.
That's all we can do. Yeah.
Okay. What do you think of? Let me ask you a simple question first of all. How would you classify the state of schools in Canton? Simply.
Well, it's not a simple answer, but I think we are continuously improving. We know that we have a ways to go in some areas, but in other areas, we are actually doing well. As you and I have talked before, it really depends on where you look. We do very well in providing opportunities for students. We do very well in providing wraparound services for students. We do very well in terms of our student diversity, and that's across a wide range of demographics.
Where don't you do good?
Where we don't do well is the state report card. And some of that is our stuff, and some of that is that the report card
doesn't measure what it's supposed to.
Well, no, actually it does measure what it's supposed to. But it doesn't measure what we do. It doesn't measure what urban school districts do primarily. The state report card was designed by the state legislature to make school districts like Canton, like Youngstown, like Akron, look unfavorable so that charter schools and voucher schools can be an alternative for families. It's a, like you and I have spoken before, my nephews are very privileged. Their parents are both highly paid professionals.
White professionals.
Yeah, white professionals. They live in They lived when they were in school. They lived in New Albany, which is a community that's very much like them. They take the same tests that our kids do, but their world is very different. My nephews have traveled the world. They've been all over. They have every opportunity. Their parents can afford to enrich their lives tremendously. Most of the kids in Canton City School District, that is not the case. We are a very high poverty district. So our kids' world isn't that world. The problem is that they all take the same tests, and those tests are normed more towards making the New Albany schools look good than they are making urban school districts look good, and that is by design. When we talk about, is that on purpose? Yeah, it is. Is it the right purpose? No. Are some of us working very hard to try to change that with the state legislature? Yes. There are a number of districts in Canton City is one of them, through the urban network of the Ohio School Boards Association, that are working very hard to try to get a new report card that would be much more equitable, that actually would look a little bit more like the state of Massachusetts' report card.
Do you think a new report card would indicate Canton's better off than what people think?
Oh, without a doubt. Because if a report card, the current report cards were designed to measure what they measure, and they were designed either with the A through F system, or now it's the STARS system. They're not really descriptive of what's going on. Most people, unless you can get really deep into the data of that, don't necessarily know what those stars mean, or how they derived it, or even what the A through F meant, or how it was derived. If a report card is a little bit more equitable, it could say, is the school district providing wraparound services for its neediest students? Check the box, yes. Does the school district do after school programs that meet certain criteria? Check the box, yes or no. That kind of thing.
Is that question on the state school report card?
Yes and no. It's those kind of things are somewhat measured, but they're buried. And our contention is that they're not necessarily weighted as heavily as they need to be. They're not. The state report card currently doesn't give school districts that are trying to be equitable and trying to do the enrichment and do the real work that it takes to educate students that don't have those advantages coming in.
Okay, so I could be generally accurate if I said you definitely think that the Canton City School Board school system is on track to improve.
I would say so, yes.
In spite of the discrepancies in the state report card.
Yes.
And where did the state report card say Canton was?
We are, well, depending on how you count the stars, if you count it the way the Cleveland Plain Dealer did, we are dead last. Now there's a couple other ways to count it where we're a little bit higher than dead last, but not. I mean, we're basically by those standards, we're not doing very well.
So this bond issue that you guys passed last night is mainly for buildings.
Yes.
Will that impact the quality of education overall?
Yes.
How so?
Because it will allow resources to be preserved.
Preserved or reallocated?
Both, preserved and reallocated. There's efficiency. the buildings that the superintendent is proposing are larger buildings, and they're designed to do two things. They're designed to give us the opportunity to have neighborhood schools. Now, a couple years ago when we did our strategic planning and we surveyed large segments of the community and our families and our employees and everybody, one of the top things that everybody said that they valued and they wanted was neighborhood schools. Our current buildings don't allow us to do that because most of them aren't big enough. You know, we have a couple that are really big, like Patrick is really big. Patrick allows us to do that. Cedar is a big building. There are some big buildings, but most of them are like McGregor. They're really small. So they don't have the capacity for us to create large enough neighborhood schools to be efficient. We could create a small neighborhood school there, but it wouldn't be efficient in the overall design. So what these buildings allow us to do is to have fewer buildings, more people in them, neighborhood schools, and create those efficiencies by not having additional principals. There would be one building principal, there'd be more assistant principals, but it's still fewer people than if you have more smaller buildings.
Let me interrupt you here.
Okay.
Let me remind our listeners who we're talking with. This is the Ron Ponder Show. We're talking with Eric Resnick, currently a member of the Canton City Board of Education. We're talking about the fact that the Board of Education just authorized via a resolution in their meeting last night, the district's going to place a 4.3
I think it's 4.3.
4.3 mil levy, a bond issue, not levy, on the ballot. And keep in mind, the mistake I made is one that you can't afford to make, because this is a bond issue. Eric, can you explain?
And let me just say one more thing. This is actually basically a replacement for bonds that are expiring in December of 2023.
Wait. How long was that in force?
25 years.
Wow.
So
25 years ago.
These are the bonds, right?
25 years ago, the board came to the community and asked for a bond issue.
Correct.
To build those new buildings.
Correct.
Via the Ohio Schools
Facilities Commission. Yeah.
And that was 25 years ago. And that 25 years will now end when?
December of 2023. Those bonds will expire December of 2023. Okay. So what we authorized last night, we are asking the community essentially to re-up those bonds and add just a little bit more. I think it's I'd have to look at the millage to give you the correct answer, but I think it's like 1/10 of an additional mill. It's not very much, but it's essentially a re-up of the bonds that expire, so that we can continue to capture that revenue for the purpose of this project without anybody really noticing any difference in their property tax.
Okay. Now, speaking of property tax, according to the paper today, the repository, it said if your resolution was approved, the owner of a $100,000 home would pay $151 a year. That's $19 more a year than the $132 that homeowners currently pay a year for the previous bond issue.
Yeah.
Approved in 1999.
Yep. So I was wrong about the year, but yeah, it's
either way it's
a long, it's a lot of years.
It's about to be over.
It's yes.
Okay.
But what you said, if those figures hold, and again, property tax values fluctuate over the life of the bonds, but essentially, what you said is true. It's a modest increase, but it's basically a continuation. most property owners in the Canton City School District aren't going to notice any difference. There will be some larger, more expensive, more valuable properties that'll notice some difference, but most of our voters will not notice much difference.
Okay, once again, we're speaking with Eric Resnick, a member of the Canton City School Board. We're talking about the fact that the school board has authorized a ballot issue when is the election? In May?
May.
In May. It's a 6
We got to move fast.
Yes, you do. I can see you moving in fast action. Yep. See Jeff Talbot running around in his office real quick.
Yes.
But that brings another question to mind. Are you guys going to be ready?
I think so. I think that the community understands this. Our superintendent did a lot of work with the community prior to this. There were about 10 total community meetings. There were meetings with community influencers. There were meetings with neighborhood associations. There were the public hearings. And essentially what we got back was the community is ready to support this. The community understood once they saw the slides and they realized that some of our older buildings have about $40 million of deferred maintenance sitting there, that if this doesn't pass and those buildings have to be refurbished, we're going to have to go back to the voters for permanent improvement money for that $40 million worth of maintenance anyway.
And you get no new buildings.
And we get no new buildings. And we don't get the, like the energy efficiency of the new buildings and, all the advantages of having the larger space in the neighborhood.
Is the voter going to understand that and respond to it?
I'm hoping so. At the community meetings, and I was at almost all of them. I was not at one of them, but I was at the rest. I was pleased with how the superintendent broke it down. The presentation is very clear, and people would sit and nod their heads. I was watching for response, and generally once people understood where we are and what his vision is going forward and why these new buildings support that vision, and that financially it's doable, because it is.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. Once a bond is approved, it's approved.
Well, it's not just the bonds, but there are other things swirling around.
Well, the question that I have is, it politically feasible?
But good policy hopefully leads to good politics, and I know it doesn't always, but good policy hopefully leads to good politics. And I trust our voters on this. Our voters care about the school district. We are a district that does not go out to the voters recklessly. We have been pretty good stewards of the money that the voters have given to us so far. We're not a district that's out there every couple of years looking for additional funds or renewals. We're very careful with this, and I think voters understand, that when we go to them for a project like this, that we're looking into the future. One of the things I was a little bit reluctant about this too, because it's a lot of money.
Well, here's where my reluctance comes from.
Go ahead.
My reluctance comes from the fact that voters and drivers are two of the most irresponsible groups of people that I know of.
See, I have a little more faith in our voters when it comes to this.
I'm glad you do. Me and
not
Sam
our drivers.
Me and Sam Persis used to argue about this all the time, because he felt, that I was being too harsh on the voter. But I see what some of the people are that voters elect.
I know.
And they go to the polls not knowing who they're going to vote for, because they don't know what they're going to. They barely know where the poll is. And they are making a vote for the rest of our futures.
Yeah. And I think
drivers,
and I think that that's of concern.
Yeah.
But looking at the voters in the past with Canton City School District levies, voters have understood. We have a pretty good record of passing levies, and it's because of two things. One is we don't go to the voters unless we really have a good case, but also because the voters in this district have shown us that they value the Canton City School District, that they want the Canton City School District to succeed, and the voters are also forward-thinking enough to understand why this is important to do.
Okay. Once again, we're talking with Eric Resnick, one of the members of the Canton City Board of Education. Who are the other members, Eric?
Well, our president now is Scott Russ. Our vice president is Dave Kaminsky. J.R. Rinaldi is a member. Kim Brown is a member. And I am a member. So that's the 5.
Okay. Okay, that's good. Mm-hmm. We do live in a democratic. See what I mean about voters?
Well, our board. Yeah, I know. But let me say this though: our board is a pretty representative cross section in many ways. We all come from different places, and when we come together, in that room around that table, there are a lot of voices that are being heard. Is it perfect? Probably not. But is it, considering it's just a 5-member board, is it good? Yes. I have confidence that it's good.
Well, I'm certainly, so far the results have been good too. So yep. I'm hoping that the goodness continues.
Well, and let me just say this. I mean, if the listeners who hear this have not seen Jeff Talbert's presentation with the slides, that show that lay out the case, please contact us. You can get them now that you can just look at them on any computer. It's easy to do, and
how do they contact you?
Well, you can contact me. My contact information, as is all board members, is on the school district's website. My cell number is 234-521-0180, and I'm going to share that, because I have confidence.
That's the same number I saw, and I won't say that.
But it's on the website. But I like it when voters interact and have questions, and our email addresses are all there too. Contact us. Contact the superintendent's office. They like to get voter feedback as well.
Well, I'm glad too, because a lot of times that doesn't happen.
That's true.
And I agree with you that if people want to get more information, they should see that slide presentation that Jeff puts on. And,
let me make one more point that I started to make is that I was a little hard sell on this, among the board members, because I was sitting there looking at the money and going, really, we can do this. And the superintendent and also Jeff Gruber, the treasurer, have spent a lot of time crunching numbers, going out and putting the package together. And yeah, it does work. It does work. And I have confidence that if the voters give us the go ahead, that this is going to be all right, that the money is there, and that we're not going to go forward with something that we can't afford.
Yeah, well, I don't think, at least in my mind, didn't enter into my mind. I wouldn't think that any board would venture forth without having the financial resources to complete the task.
Well, they shouldn't. I would venture to say that it happens, but in this case, the numbers are really good, and I have confidence.
Well, now let me ask you this, listeners. We're talking with Eric Resnick. He just gave you his phone number, and did you give your email address? No, you.
I'll give it. It's RESNICK_E at ccsdistrict.org.
You can't make it more complicated.
Hey, that I didn't pick it. But all the school district addresses, it's often easier just to go to the school district website, pull down the board contact, and just click on that live link. But that's what it is.
Now, as a school board member, has there been any decisions made about McKinley High School, the building of the building of McKinley High School?
Well, the proposal's on the table. That's the piece that the money is not there yet. Anybody who has been to Hall of Fame Village and looks at that high school sitting there, I'm sure scratches their head and goes, how can this continue? And it is a priority of the board.
But it's not
and
included
the
in this bond issue.
It is not included in this particular bond issue because those pieces of the finances are not in place yet.
So what happens if the bond issue passes? Do you go back for another bond issue for McKinley High School?
I hope not. I don't believe that will be the case. I don't want to. I don't want to sit here and rule it out, but I think it's a very low probability.
Or are you just going to take a personal check and write it?
Right, but that's not going to build very much. But I don't want to rule it out, but I think there's a very, very low probability. We are looking in other places for the money to do that, and one of the good things that we have going for us with regard to the high school is we have the Timken campus, and we have the space to work with down there. We're not, one of the big costs of building schools is purchase of land. They require a lot of land. Another big cost in building high schools is, things like kitchens and the mechanical systems, and a lot of that is either currently on that campus already, or a good bit of it is started. So that is an efficient place with regard to cost. Parma's trying to build a new high school. Parma's a district that's similar to us in size. They're trying to build a new high school from scratch, purchase the land. The cost of that is over $200 million. They're asking their voters for $200 million.
Just for land?
Well, because you have to purchase land. They have to build, the expensive mechanicals. We have a lot of that already. So building on the Timken campus, even with, some of the peripheral land that we would have to purchase, it's not very much. But building on that campus, instead of $200 million, our cost would be about, I think.
So you're projecting that it might. Timken High School and McKinney might merge? I mean, physically. Well, it'd be on that campus. Okay.
The Timken building and the Timken Commons. The Timken Commons will actually be part of the new school. The Timken building will be, but it will not be used as a high school. There are some other things that they're talking about going in there. It'll be used, but it won't be part of the high school part. In the slides that people can get, they'll see the architectural drawings, of the basics, what it would look like. It's going to take up that whole space, and requires some demo. There's some other buildings down there that'll have to come down, but it's basically that's the space, and it's big enough, and we own it. So the cost can be, instead of $191 million or $200 million that Parm is asking for, it's less than half of that.
Right. Eric Resnick, I want to thank you for being a guest on our show today.
Well, again, I want to thank you for your dedication to the Canton City School District and to public education in general.
Well, it's
we
important.
appreciate that.
Although I think we probably disagree about charter schools, because I'm for well-run, limited charter schools, not like the ones that's got the negative reputations. But I know
that's another show.
Yes, that entirely.
Yes, it is.
And I also want to thank Jeff Woodson, the owner, operator of Seatown Radio. Cool Jeff. Got a brand new studio downtown, right up above Samantha's. This is a techno district, isn't it? Isn't this area, the second block of Market, considered some sort of technology center? Yeah, I think it is.
I'm dealing with it. I know that.
Either
very
way,
nice.
Thanks and congratulations, Jeff.
Thank you.
Yeah. And once again, Eric, thank you for being a guest on our show. Continued blessings. And I do hope you pass that bond issue. So we'll see.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Ron Ponder Show. Till next week. Oh, let me remind you, Dave Selby has a show on. What's the name of his show, Jeff?
The Dave Selby Show. We're still kicking around that.
The Dave Selby Show. And Dave plays rock music.